A Redditor asks, what business or store that was killed by the internet do you miss the most? I honestly miss video stores. It was fun to wander around them, and you might end up renting something you never heard of on a whim. There used to be this really cool lady that owned my local store. Over the years she learned my tastes and could suggest things that I might like. Was way more accurate than Netflix suggestions, etc. Plus I could always look forward to the fun social interaction of talking about our favorite movies. Had the same experience here. My mum knew the owner on first name basis, and he let late fees and such slip by a little longer than usual and always had things to recommend. To be honest, sometimes it was just nice to get out of the house with my mum and hang out at the video store picking the 7 for $7 weekly deal. Flea markets. Yes, I know they still exist. The problem is that thanks to the proliferation of the internet, it's pretty difficult to find a good deal on much of anything, especially games. People check the prices on eBay and other places and just price around that. You could go to a dozen flea markets or pop-up shops and the same game will be around the same price at every single one of them. Gotta beat the flea market vendors to the product. Most peeps are just buying stuff from estate sales. Co-worker who works flea markets is always talking about getting crap loads of stuff for dirt cheap at estate sales. Not exactly the same experience as a flea market, but if you're just in the market for cheap stuff then yeah. Estate sales and auctions. My husband buys and resells things on Amazon and eBay. That's where he gets most of his stuff. That and the clearance racks at Walmart. Also, he showed me how just about everything I buy off Amazon is actually from a dollar store. For example, I bought some cute shelf liner off Amazon for $8. Yeah, that shelf liner was $1 from Dollar General. People literally buy out dollar stores in product like that and list it on Amazon for $10, $15, or $20. You can make some decent money doing it, which is pretty surprising. That explains why so much stuff I buy on Amazon is garbage now. I don't think I had to sift through as many crappy products 5 years ago, and even though they claim to be beating back fake reviews, there are many products with 4 stars that last about a week. Electronic stores where you get stuff for projects. I wish I could have gone there. There still are a few such chains left, but I wish more such stores still existed. Fry's Electronics still hangs on, and ditto with Micro Center. I know Best Buy is still hanging on too, but has to be struggling to some extent. And of course there also was Radio Shack. I thought all their stores had closed by now. They turned to focusing on selling smartphones. Did not help them at all. KB Toys and Toys R Us. I grew up with weekend trips to KB. And to this day, as a man, I still love toys. It's something I passed on to my own son, and though he's too young to have known KB, I loved taking him to Toys R Us, even if just to look around. It was one of our things, our father and son activity. And now, there's nothing that even compares. OMG. I forgot about KB Toys. Every time I went to the mall with my mom, when I was younger, I would beg her to take me there. Edit. Also, the Sanrio store. I was hooked. Sales pros in general. A guy selling you a fridge who has sold fridges for 10 years and knows all about them. Now I look for stars and try to discern real versus paid versus bot reviews. Yes. Or the guy in the hardware store that actually knows what tool does what and can help you find the best fasteners and stuff. I went into a Best Buy to buy a monitor and wanted to ask someone for help for the best one, but the manager at the store just told me to look online. Yeah. Since they got rid of commission, knowing literally anything about what they're selling really just isn't part of the job anymore. Not to disparage Best Buy employees, but in 25 plus years of shopping, I have never learned anything useful from an employee there beyond hey, can you point me to where X might be? I'm sure there is a certain percentage who are technology enthusiasts, but most of the very few interactions I've had over the years, I usually know more about what I'm looking for than they do. I miss magazine stores and newsstands. Part of my routine for years on Fridays was a walk into the neighborhood newsstand on the way to work. I'd spend 15 minutes perusing the new stuff. I'd usually spend $20 to $30 on 5 to 6 magazines. Video game stuff, 40 Times, Games Magazine, always that day's SF Chronicle, whatever. Most of those places are long gone. I suppose I spend less money on that stuff, but I miss it. Moved to France, they're everywhere. Bookstores too. Games magazine was pretty sweet. I used to love hunting for the fake ad. I miss magazines in general. Especially the phone book size computer shopper. There used to be a magazine for damn near everything too. It was fun going through big newsstands and finding magazines on all kinds of obscure hobbies and music that you knew nothing about and thumbing through them. You know Barnes and Noble still exists, right? Their magazine section is huge. Who still buys them? The magazine selection of the greatest newsstand today doesn't compare with a good newsstand from 30 years ago, simply because the medium is nowhere near as prolific now as it was then. And magazines are nearing $20 an issue these days. I miss really good hobby shops. I build plastic models, usually World War II aircraft. Those high-end hobby shops have all the closed down. Now all you can generally find are RC shops that have a shelf of a couple plastic models here and there. If you ever make it to Tokyo and still dig making plastic models, you will be in hog heaven here. There are many stores with stacks and stacks of kits, Tamiya, and all the other brands, tanks, ships, cars, you name it. Chain record stores, like Record Bar or Tower Records. Wolf Camera, where I spent many happy hours indulging my photo hobby in the 1990s. The one thing I actually don't miss, especially towards the end, is when they became let's sell all sorts of fandom paraphernalia stores. Oh, and I guess we got some CDs behind these Funko Pops. Welcome to GameStop. Horrible prices for anything that isn't a major release. Rarely any engaging stuff. No way to special order things like imports and such. Always supported the independent record stores instead whenever I could. I really don't miss paying $17 for a CD in the 90s though. Back when you would listen to every song until you liked each one. That's so true, dude. I started doing that again since the beginning of this year and it really works. The songs I hate the most while listening first is almost every time the song I like the most after a few plays. Arcades for sure. My dad used to drop me off at a nickel arcade with $5. I felt like a king. This is a big one for me. Arcades were how my dad and I bonded when I was really young. There was one in our mall growing up called Pocket Change, and we would always go race each other or shoot aliens together. I miss that place. Those were killed off by the PS1 Plus generation of consoles. Once people got arcade quality graphics at home, it was a death knell for arcades. They could have lasted a lot longer had they played it smarter. I can't play things like Skee-Ball or Dance Dance Revolution on the real nice metal mat at home, for instance. When I visited Japan, there were so many unique, huge arcade games to try that someone couldn't possibly have set up in their own home. I had a blast. Many of them also feature computer and online game setups now as well. I never got into arcades because by the time I was old enough to be any good at video games, basically every arcade game I encountered was $1 or $2 per play, and I didn't think it was fun to blow a whole $2 on 1 or 2 tries on a video game, especially when I had an N64 at home. It's a shame that everything costs so much nowadays. I ran into the same issue. Why would I spend $1 or $2 per play when I could just save my money and spend $50 on an entire game I can play all I want? They raised costs at the same time wages were stagnating and the price of their primary competitor was dropping. Plus I don't have to deal with a good 25% of the machines being broken or having issues because the owner is too cheap to repair them. The goddamn Time Crisis guns, 75% were totally miscalibrated. I amassed an arsenal of light guns and arcade shooter games for my PS1 for that very reason back in the day. I had to leave it all behind in a move years ago, and I miss it. Most of the shops in my small country town closed because everyone orders everything off of Amazon, and now there's many abandoned buildings. Funny to see Amazon has replaced Walmart as the boogeyman that's killing mom and pop stores. Yep, 25 years ago Walmart was killing the general stores and Borders and Barnes and Noble were killing the local bookstores. Now, people are terrified of losing Barnes and Noble due to Amazon, and Borders has been gone for years. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments section below what business or store that was killed by the internet do you miss the most.